Hi, I'm Jenna Keller, and this is Kindra Farizel. I'm here with Kindra today to talk a little bit about what she does with her acupuncture practice. And so I'll introduce Kindra first to start. Kindra is a licensed acupuncturist, and she's been practicing that for about 10 years. And additionally, she practices Chinese medicine and herbal medicine.
Yep.
And so Kindra offers a lot of great resources in the community, and that includes meditation classes. And is there anything I'm forgetting?
Nope, I think that covers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So let's just get started here in a dialogue, and I have some questions for you that I've been dying to ask
Great.
about your work, and what I'm really particularly curious about is how it relates to emotional and mental health. So for you, how would you address one's emotional or mental health state in the acupuncture room?
So there's a couple different answers to that. For one answer is that in Chinese medicine, we don't ever separate the mental emotional state from the physical state. So it's all part of the big picture. So anyone who comes in for any reason at all, we have to address their mental emotional state and see where they're at. We call it the Shen, and we can see it through your eyes to see the health of your Shen. That's part of the diagnostic technique. But one thing that I love that we say in Chinese medicine is that emotions are the subjective experience of the movement of qi. So we are, it's
I like that.
cool. We're energetic bodies, as we know. We have meridians running through our body according to Chinese medicine. And our qi, which I like to call activity. So you can call it energy if you want, but it's just activity. What's pumping the heart? What's creating peristalsis in your gut? It's all activity, and without that, we wouldn't exist.
Right.
And so that's qi. And this qi is constantly moving, but sometimes it gets stuck. And sometimes there's not enough of it. And in those instances where it's out of balance, there's a variety of ways that can show up as mental, emotional disharmony.
Okay, so you're saying that like maybe a block in the system or not enough energy or maybe even too much energy can manifest as mental and emotional disturbances?
Okay. Yeah, so it's, let's say, for example, in Chinese medicine we talk about the liver being the organ system that moves your qi. It's in charge of movement for the whole body. And we have something called liver qi stagnation. So that can show up in a variety of different ways on a more subtle level where it's not too extreme and it's just a little bit stuck. You're going to start to feel frustrated. Or you might be more stressed than normal. You might get irritated with your friends or your partner and you don't know why. Or you might be moody and you don't know why. And it's that this liver system is not moving your emotions.
I see.
So they're like getting stuck along the way. So if something happens, say you stub your toe, most of us might feel like, ouch, that hurts, and then sort of move on when the pain goes away. If you have liver qi stagnation, you might get really pissed off about it. And it's because that qi is not moving in your system, according to Chinese medicine.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I always wondered because I had heard, like, okay, so the liver is related to anger, the emotion of anger, for instance. The spleen is related to something else.
Worry.
But that makes, so it's all about, like, the blockage level.
On one level, that's what it is. So with the liver, it oftentimes gets blocked. And if it's really, really blocked, it might turn into rage. So someone with extreme liver qi stagnation is actually going to be very rageful. But it can also be very deficient. So if you're looking at something more like anxiety, then it's actually typically not a stagnation, it's a deficiency. And it's not always a deficiency of qi, it's oftentimes a deficiency of blood, of what we call blood. And the way that I like to explain that is that if you have a river, if our body is a river, if our emotional state is a river, You want it to be moving like a really beautiful mountain stream.
Mm-hmm.
Trickling along, healthy, moving, everything's going well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have enough water in the stream, you're going to actually create some stagnation there. So it's like you don't have enough water, and then mud starts to accumulate, and now you do have that stagnation piece, so things aren't moving quite right. You're not really moving through life freely, but it's because you don't have enough. You don't have enough water. You're very deficient. And so that can come from poor nutrition. It can come from many, many years of worry or from stressful events, and you actually just really deplete yourself and your resources. Whereas something more like the anger would be like a big beaver dam in a river. That has a lot of water in it.
And it's all that pressure is building up behind it, creating that pressure internally and that feeling of frustration, like you're going to blow at any minute. Perfect. I love that imagery of the river and that metaphor. Makes sense.
Yeah, the nice thing about Chinese medicine is that it really makes a lot of sense, and you just have to look out into nature to see how our bodies are operating.
Yeah. And so can you go through some of the major organs and their emotional correlation real quick?
Yeah, totally. So we talked about the liver and that being associated with anger. The lungs are associated with grief and sadness.
Say more about that.
Okay, so the lungs, in Chinese medicine, we attribute the season of fall to the lungs. Every organ is associated with a season in Chinese medicine. And so if you think about fall, you've got your trees, and they are dropping their leaves. And so there's a loss. And so the tree knows it's going to recover in spring because it's in the Tao, it's in alignment with nature. Humans, we get a little off course, and we don't always remember that things are going to be okay. And so when we have a loss, we feel very devastated, and that turns into grief. And so that, from a Chinese medicine perspective, is associated with your lungs. And if you think about it, so it's not only your lungs, but it's your lungs and also your large intestine. Those are the two organs that are associated with the metal element. They're a pair. So if you think about it, those two organs are major elimination organs. So we get rid of carbon dioxide with our lungs, and we get rid of any waste from our large intestine. And so we're constantly letting go and letting go. And so if there's an imbalance in one of those organ systems, either from an emotional process or more from a physical end, we might tend to gravitate more towards the feeling of grief or sadness or have a really hard time letting go. And so we might hold on to things a little bit stronger.
And so then people with digestive things sometimes, like if they're constipated, let's say, they may be holding on to some things that should otherwise be let go, but it's those feelings of grief and sadness that create that grasping. It's
Totally. And a lot of times people don't make that connection between their physical symptoms, and it can be hard to make that connection. And a lot of times you'll see it on the, like I have a lot of people that come in with shoulder pain on their lung meridian or their large intestine meridian, and it just so happens that their mother or father died a year ago, or right when the pain started.
I can see that. And in yoga therapy or yoga, they talk about opening up the arms and how that alleviates depression. So it must be related to that heart meridian then? If you're opening.
So the heart is kind of like armpit up, and then the lung is like right in here. So it's the connection, and the heart is always connected to our emotions. But definitely the lungs too, the lung meridian goes right along here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, and so some of the other organs. That are
so the kidney is associated with fear. So the kidneys are like the deep depths of our body. And I like to think about this kidney energy. If you've ever seen one of those Discovery Channel movies where they go deeper than they've ever gone in the ocean, And you see those fish that are just so scary,
Right.
and they have the teeth that are like this long.
Right.
You've never seen anything so scary in your life.
I'm curious to see where you're going with this and how it relates to the kidneys, but yes.
Yeah. So that's sort of like, it's scary. It's scary down there. You don't know what you're going to see. It's the kidneys are that place, that depth where our deepest psychological wounds might be held, if we want to look at it from a psychotherapy perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times people don't want to go into those depths. It's also associated with winter.
Okay.
And wintertime is more of an inward time when we really kind of close things off. Everything is dead, so to speak.
Right.
And so we're just there with ourself and the depths of our being, which can be scary.
Yeah.
The antidote to fear is trust.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the kidneys, if there's a kidney imbalance, usually what you'll see is that there's a lot of fear, but there's also a lot of an inability to trust.
Gotcha.
To trust other people and even to trust themselves.
And I imagine trust in the greater universe, trust that things will work out.
Exactly. That's even bigger. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so cultivating trust is a great way to recover some of these kidney imbalances.
Mm-hmm. And so how would you work with that in your clinic?
So, well, we would use acupuncture points that treat the kidney energy, but we might also there's never one thing going on because the body's a dynamic, moving system. So whatever else is influencing the kidneys, you might have a kidney deficiency that's rooted in fear and a lack of trust, but because that's there and they're so afraid to look at it, they experience a lot of anger on top of it, because there's a lot of times anger comes on top of fear.
Right.
And so that anger is a liver imbalance, so we might need to start there and start moving some of that chi, because that's a little more on the surface, and people aren't always ready, as you know very well. People aren't always ready to go deep into that fear, into those depths, and see those scary fish down in the depths of the ocean, which is themselves.
Right.
And so we start by just clearing out some of that anger, and then once that happens, people are a little more open to kind of just address and shed light on what they might be fearing, and as acupuncture treatments proceed, they start to build up a level of trust in life, and which is obviously very freeing.
Yeah, so it sounds like you really work with what's presenting itself in the moment. Like really getting a good idea of where people are at. Yeah. Like so, there might be this fear underlying, but what's presenting right now? Anger and frustration.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very important in Chinese medicine, is to treat what is here in the moment, because that's all that exists anyway. Right. And so so people like to come in and they like to say, well, 10 weeks ago I was working on this, and this is how I was feeling, but the important question is, how are you feeling now, and how can we work with that now? And then it's my job to see the bigger picture, of course, but we need to always address what is presenting itself in the present moment.
So are there any other major organs that are associated with emotions?
So one that is an interesting one is the heart. And the heart, in Chinese medicine translation into English, we say that the heart is associated with joy. So people are like, well, I want a lot of joy.
Right.
That doesn't seem like it could ever be out of balance.
Right.
And the way that gets out of balance is overexcitement. And so... Like
too much stimulation, or...
Yeah, like getting really, really excited. Like I'm thinking of somebody who she's just is always so excited about life, and she can't sleep at night. Okay. And she's so hot all the time, and it's just so exciting, but there's nothing to root her in there.
Right.
There's no stillness in the heart at all, and so thus there isn't any peace. In the heart.
And that's such an interesting thing, I think, in our society, that constant joy, up, 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 is so valued.
Yeah.
And people are afraid almost of that stillness.
Yes.
Because, whoa, that's scary, that's foreign.
Totally. It's
so
foreign.
To shift that understanding, I think, is so important, of like that there is joy in stillness when you access true stillness.
Exactly. Yeah, nice. That's where that joy is found, that constant, there's a constancy there.
Yeah.
That doesn't really have a lot of fluctuation, because emotions, they fluctuate.
Right.
And so you can get really high on excitement, but without a doubt, you're always going to land in disappointment.
Right.
And so that's the problem with excitement.
Right. Attaching to the highs means you also have to attach to the lows.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, so that's the fire element in the heart. And I think, the spleen in the stomach is associated with worry and overthinking. So overthinking isn't really necessarily an emotion, but I see it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, in our society.
Yeah.
It's a lot of analyzing and a lot of overthinking, and just a lot of it comes from actually poor dietary habits, because they're connected. The spleen in the stomach is your digestive system. So if people have a really poor diet, eating too much sugar, too many processed foods, then their mind is going to be running wild.
Right.
And so once people start to clean up their diet a little bit, they find they might be able to stop, because people don't, in my experience, like that feeling. They know that their mind is just running wild. Right. And it's very uncomfortable.
Right. And a lot of times there's an assumption that there's nothing that can be done about it. That's just the mind. Like, I'll hear a lot of people say, I just have a really active mind.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So that's good to know that there's some simple things like cleaning up the diet that can actually impact that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. And acupuncture, of course, just to calm the nervous system. Helps with that too.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're just wrapping up here. We're about out of time for today, but is there anything else that you want to add or you feel is important?
I think that is great. I think we covered some good stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much.
One. Yeah,
totally. And
thank you.
It's also helpful, and I think it's beautiful how these different, methodologies and perspectives really can have a lot in common.
Yeah.
In terms of the mindfulness piece is what I was really seeing, and being aware and accessing what's really there.
Right. It's really neat how it's like bridging this gap between mind and body, truly, and connecting mind and body instead of separating mind and body. It's so important to bring the two together. And to, I think, and you probably think maybe the same thing, that healing is always about embodiment.
Right. 100% agree.
Good note to end on.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching.